Hello and welcome to Ireland's Ascendants. I'm Erin Suniva, and this is our third interview regarding Ireland and her many mysteries. Today we're speaking with Geraldine Broadley. Geraldine is a Scot who lives in Ireland. She began her spiritual awakening in 1986, experiencing a shamanic awakening at the harmonic convergence in 87, when she opened up to her natural healing abilities and psychic awareness. Geraldine works with the land, greatly influenced by the traditions of Native American Indians, the Tibetans, and the Pleiadians. Through her awakening process, she has developed multidimensional skills, including working with New Earth geomancy, and that's why we're here to talk today about geomancy. I'm really excited about that. Geraldine is a starseed. She's part of a collective sowing seeds of change, awakening, and enlightenment. She's here to transmute the old frequencies of a dying paradigm. Woohoo!
Let's do this.
So Geraldine, thank you so much for joining us here. I really appreciate, I love being able to connect with you with this this aspect of the work that we do in Ireland and with the earth at the sacred sites. And you're actually going to be doing a little bit of rudimentary explaining for those who don't understand what geomancy is. So we're going to start with that just to get that out of the way. What is geomancy and what are ley lines?
Oh, right, okay. That's quite simple, really. Geomancy is basically about working in harmony with the elements of nature and the earth. It's about feeling in to the environment and working with the environment and working also with the elementals to perhaps realign energies that are out of sync with what is necessary and what is actually needed or wanted in that particular area by the consciousness of the spirit of that land. So that's what geomancy is to me. It's about working in nature and working in harmony with the land for the greater good of the planet and for humanity and basically all sentient beings.
Yay!
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah, well, it's really important in this day and age because there's so much craziness going on out there, and there's a lot of things going on in the world that are pulling people out of balance. A lot of people are lost. A lot of people are disconnected spiritually. So one of my passions is about reconnecting people with the land so that they can actually work in healing themselves. Mm-hmm. So, and once you bring people into the land, the nature of the land and the spirit of the land will work to heal that person, you know. And that's really beautiful just to be a part of that process and start people on that journey of reconnecting to the land and to themselves.
Yeah.
A ley line is basically a line of energy that will run through certain areas. Actually, there's a grid of ley lines that connect all over the earth. You'll find at certain points there'll be certain places of historical significance or geographical significance or mythical significance, depending on what theory or perspective of belief you want to take on board, you know. So if you're tuning into the ley lines, you're feeling for the energies, you know, and them energies can be found quite easily through dowsing, or if you have an opening to being very sensitive, you can actually feel it in your vibration. You'll get goosebumps, or you'll get shivers, or you'll feel a density in the atmosphere as you walk past a ley line. So ley lines are basically like the veins of the planet, you know, or the meridian system is another way of putting it. And quite often where you have sacred sites, you'll have like what you could compare to the equivalent of acupuncture points.
Sure.
So where you have a sacred site, there'll be a significant point or node of energy at that site, you know, for whatever reason it's there. You know, it could be like electrical, magnetic, could be a vortex, you know, could be a lot of things actually, you know, that's what's exciting. But the brilliant thing about it is when you go to these places, you feel the vibration. If you don't feel it physically, you'll just go away with a really feel good factor. You know, you'll feel regenerated, you know, by the healing energies that are actually at these sacred sites.
Wonderful. And they certainly are palpable. I haven't done any dowsing at sites, but I can certainly feel, I've gotten goosebumps and shivers, like you said. Sometimes I get a little bit lightheaded, or I get really immediately meditative, just like immediately internally. I can't, you know, it's hard for me to talk. Like once I enter into a stone circle or I'm connecting to a monument, it just, everything just becomes so expansive. And being in the physical form, it is like a, you know, an afterthought almost.
And that's what I think it's all about. I mean, a lot of people are like off to, with their dowsing rods or their pendles, and they're off to experience this this momentum of these energies. But actually, it's much better just to go there and sit and listen from a geomantic perspective. That's what it's about. It's about tuning in. It's about listening. It's just about going there and sitting down and being humble and being open, and, you know, with the heart chakra being open and connecting with the land and all the elementals of the land, and just sitting there and listening and allow yourself to absorb these energies, you know, and wonderful insights come to you. Wonderful insights, you know, and of course, when you experience the things that you've just spoken about, you know, you start to realize, wow, this is amazing, you know, what's going on here, you know, wonderful.
So when you're in that place, when you're having that experience, you know, being open to what's happening, how can one participate in the land? How can one participate in the experience that can benefit themselves or benefit the earth and that site?
That's a really good question, actually, and it's a really wonderful, creative question. And I would rather just speak about my own personal experience, you know.
Of course.
Because for me it's valuable, and for me it has led me into a deeper sense of knowing and connection. So for me, walking on the land and listening to the land, it's about being intuitively spontaneous. So if I'm walking, the
fire agrees with you.
Yeah. Fire. She's like, right on, girl. So it's like if you're walking up towards the hill, you may see feathers. Pick the feathers up. They're gifts. They're gifts from nature. You know, I was walking along the beach yesterday. I hadn't been. It's a sacred place of mine. I hadn't been for ages. I just walked down towards the water. The sea was very, very calm. I had my welly boots on, and as I stepped into the water, suddenly all these waves came. Lots of little ripples. And I thought, where did they come from? Because I didn't actually see them out there making their way in towards the shore. I mean, that's the connection. That's the element of the water going, hey, you're back. What have you been up to? And I could immediately sense the energy, and the energy was like fun-filled and exciting. You know, like you get like almost like that energy of a little child that's not seen you for ages, and you walk in the door and they're like, yay, hey, you know. So it's been about being open and receptive. You know you're loved. You know you're loved by the mother, by Gaia, by the consciousness of the earth. It is all about love. It's about pure, unconditional love. So for me, it's about listening and tuning in, noticing these little things. I may go to some certain sites, and I always pack a little kit, and that kit will be my music. And I have certain songs that I know we like to listen to. Certain songs that contain certain frequencies. Okay, we have a lot of it going on about the 432 activists and how wonderful sacred sound is, So I know that when I go up to a certain place and there's certain trees, I play a certain song, and I take the earphones out and I put it to the tree. And so I've one ear me listening and the other ear the tree, and then there's a merging of the two of us together that is really beautiful. Then I may sit in silence and little insights may come to me, or if there's no deep sense of insights, there's just a wonderful connection where perhaps a wee rabbit might pop out and have a wee look. Animals are never scared of you when you're in that zone. They're curious and they want to come around. So something like that. Or I would take also my artwork up. I have pens, and I would take a little jar of water and some brushes for watercolor, and I have a little pad. I may feel inspired to draw. Usually I work with light language quite a lot. It's quite significant the past 3 years. So I may choose to just take out and just work intuitively with them sigils and different sort of light language sort of patterns and designs. And then I find when I take them home and I meditate with them, different things may come. Perhaps there's insights, perhaps there's healing, perhaps it's just an appreciation of beauty for what was experienced in that moment. So
I have such a fond memory of being with you and our friends Stellar and Jane at the Stone Circle, and the cows were there.
Oh, yes.
And they're like, what are you doing? What are you up to? Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of sacred sites that are, I know that there are, in fields with animals that you have to negotiate with the animals, and once they can sense your intention, which they always can, they certainly, just hold space while you're there.
A friend had asked me about doing shamanic journeying, and we were going for a walk, and we were going up to a local stone circle, and there's a really nice stone there. I says, I'll take my drum up and we'll do your journey. And so she laid down and started to drum, and I had a good look around, and all the cows were way at the far ends of the field, and I started to drum. And when I was drumming, the cows all made their way, and I counted 70 cows in the end up. 70 cows. Wow. 70 cows made their way to the sound of the drum, and they came so close that my friend said all I could hear was chewing and breathing. You could only hear the cows chewing and the cows breathing. And it was a very special moment, It was a moment of, we laughed so hard, And then even once they stopped drumming, they hung about. I have such lovely photographs of that because they were literally so close. You could have reached out and touched their noses. And there was no fear. They were so curious. Yeah. That's the lovely thing about when you're out in the nature and you're at one with the nature.
Yeah.
And the animals come to you. They're like your messengers, Yeah.
I also, to add my sacred items that I bring with me, that I always kind of have, my specific tools. I always bring something as an offering. So that might be an herb of some kind, maybe cedar or tobacco or sage, or maybe mugwort. Yes. And I have a crystal that can be charged by the site or can participate in some way with the site. I always, like you said, something with sound, either a tuning fork or a drum, and an open heart.
Yeah, mostly an open heart. It is just so beautiful. You receive so much healing, when you go there with an open heart, just be open to receive. I did notice, I'd also have my own tools that I take up, but like yourself. But I was down in Tara, and there's a guy down there who's always there at night time, and I would go into the van if I'm down there and get heat by his little fire in the van. And one time he said, "Do you like sloe gin?" And I said, "Yeah, I've never tasted it before." So he gave me a little taste, and I thought, "Oh, this is unusual," but I actually really liked it. So a couple of weeks later, I bought my first bottle of sloe gin, but it tasted really bad. It wasn't as good as his. So I put in lots of honey, and I thought, I'm going to give this as an offering to the ancestors and to the land. Oh my goodness. Last year, I was out about 5 bottles of sloe gin on the land. And at Christmas time, I was like, it's like €37 a bottle. It's like, I'm going to have to do something about this. So I had a little negotiation, for a whiskey. I always like to put alcohol on the land. And at one time I was actually doing that. And about a week later, I was up at the same site sitting, and there was an American girl from Colorado had came. And she started to put whiskey on the stones. She was doing exactly the same as what I was doing. And it was so wonderful. That connection was just so lovely. I thought, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. So is that what you do? Do you just put the bottle there, or do you pour it on the earth?
Well, if I'm working shamanically, then I would open up into the different directions, and then call in the spirits and the spirits of the land, and call in my ancestors and the ancestors of the land. And then I would give offerings and blessing. So usually I would place some alcohol, usually burn sage and tobacco and alcohol, and usually pour the alcohol in the land, but I would take a little swig myself. And even alcohol that I don't particularly like at times when I'm actually doing that in ritual, the alcohol actually tastes really nice. And I'm like, oh, I actually don't usually like the taste of that, but this tastes amazing. But if I was to go back home and get myself a little glass, I'm like,
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
it's interesting. So that's what I would do. And then, of course, the fae. I always like to bring a little bit of fruit or something, like some nuts or some honey, especially local honey, because I have a really deep connection with bees. And so I love to sort of use the local foods. So I would do that. One time I was actually last year with an American lady, and we went up to this place and we were given offerings, and I was just actually a tour guide for her, and she came up and I was really fascinated. She had all these sweets, like really sugary things, and biscuits and chocolate, and I was like, oh, I was like kind of doing it natural with all the local food things, and she was like giving it junk food. But it was absolutely amazing what she was doing. I was absolutely loving it. And she was saying, oh yeah, they love sugar. And I was thinking, this was so beautiful to be a witness to somebody else doing it differently, and to know that it was appreciated just as much. It's beautiful,
So how does the land, how do the spirits respond to these offerings? Does it amplify? Do you feel an amplification in the energy? Do you feel like you receive gifts in return? From a respectful point of view is kind of like where I come from. But there's such goodness in there when we give freely. to the earth and to spirit. And I'd love to hear what you feel about that.
Well, I've never placed anything on the land in respect for a gift or a blessing and expected anything in return.
Right.
I've never done that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more for me about making a connection of giving, and I know quite often there's a giving and a receiving, but it's quite often I'm just there to connect with the land, and that's my way of connecting. And quite often you do receive things, you receive beautiful insights, you know, and beautiful teachings that help you on your path of learning. Now, the first time I was told to place alcohol, it was a Sangoma shaman I was working with, and she said, make your offerings to your ancestors with alcohol. And I thought, oh, okay, never thought on that before. I had only ever just burned sage or threw some rice or oats around on the land. So I got some alcohol and lit the sage. She also said to use recommended tobacco, and I thought, oh, this is all really interesting. So it was like learning from her. She taught me so much, you know, and placed the sage and then burned the sage and then burned the snuff on top of the sage, and then I got the alcohol and I placed some on the land and I took a little bit, and then I had a feeling to do it again. And I thought, oh, I have the feeling to do it again. Perhaps I never gave enough alcohol on the land. So I went like that I had a little flask, a little silver flask, and I went like that, you know, the wee little flat drinking ones.
Yeah.
People hold in their pockets.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't hold much.
Right. And I brought it out and I went like that. And as I went like that, I don't know what happened, but it was like about half of the container just went and landed on the land, and it landed on the sage and put the sage out.
Huh.
And I thought, oh my goodness, what happened there? So I related it back to her about a week later, and she says, they want more, you must give more, you must give more. I thought it was a bad sign. I was like, what's going on here? But she says, oh no, this is really good. Give more. And so I started to just sort of like do that, you know. And then one time our house was flooded quite recently, and I had a bottle of sloe gin that I'd bought in duty free coming back from Scotland. And I was going with the bottle in the car to go to give blessings in another place in nature. And the bottle fell out my hand, and I don't know how it happened, but the lid popped off, and suddenly glug, 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 glug. All the sloe gin was coming down and going onto the ground, and I went, oh my God, quick, quick, quick. And I grabbed it up, and there was a good third of the bottle missing. And I knew that it was a very old building I was in, and I just knew the spirits in that building knew what I was up to, and they wanted their share.
You better give us some too.
So it's just like, what?
Yeah. Wow. Oh, it's so beautiful and fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there are so many traditions about feeding your ancestors, you know, from all over the world, feeding your ancestors with alcohol. And that's so interesting to me.
Another nice one she taught, I have to quickly pass it on to you. And it made so much sense. It was like about cooking. Cook something that your ancestors love. Something that they loved. Cook a meal in their honor, you know, and that is so beautiful. You know, I cooked shortbread because I was brought up in Scotland, and we have a lot of shortbread. And I thought I make shortbread with a twist, and I put chocolate in it. And I was determined it was for a specific ceremony and a collective gathering for honouring the ancestors, and everybody was making something to bring, and I stood over the oven because I always burn things. I literally stood over the oven to make sure that it wouldn't burn. And at the last moment, I got distracted. And I went to the computer and I came back and they started to discolor. And I went, oh no, they started to burn. And I thought, they did smell a little bit kind of burned, but I had put a lot of prayer into the making them. I was saying prayers and I was putting mantras, green Tara mantra, and then medicine mandala mantras into all the flour and everything while I was making it. And I thought, oh my goodness, typical you at the last minute, even though you were watching the oven. But you know, Erin, when we actually went there, everybody was taking the shortbread and going, oh, this is really nice, this is lovely, can I have the recipe? I was like, oh my goodness, people actually like it. And I'm sure I would have thought on it, I think it was because of the amount of prayers that went into it, you know. It was good energy. It might have been a little bit burned, tiny little bit burned, but
that's delicious too.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Well, so, you know, so this is so wonderful, beautiful ways to connect with nature, with the spirits of sacred sites and the ley lines. Now, the ley lines go everywhere, including the cities, you know, like this beautiful grid. And like you said, like the meridians of the planet. What do we do when we're in a city? How can we connect to nature, to these ley lines? What if we live in a house where there's a ley line going underneath it, or is it going through it? You know, I know these are a lot of questions, but as somebody who lives in a small city, you know, it's actually easy for me to connect to nature because it's right there. I live right next to the mountains and I'm so blessed to do that. But there are billions of people who live in fast, loud cities. How can they connect?
That's a very loaded question for me, actually. You know, if we talk about, we've just talked about going into the sacred sites and the feeling of energetic regeneration and tuning in and things, and that can be very hard to do when you live in the city.
And to be that sensitive as well.
Yeah.
We lose a lot of our sensitivity. Yeah.
Now, I would say, like, we have an artificial overlay of the ley lines, right? Which is part of the cabal, you know. So it's like, as we go into cities, we're seeing buildings that are energetically very, very dark, and the energy there is very dark, and the sacred geometry that's made up of these buildings is deliberately there to harness and feed dark. It's there to harness dark energy. So when you go into cities, there's a lot of dense energy in cities that needs to be cleared. So if there's any people that are working with the leys, I suggest the greatest work that you can do is in the city, you know. And there's lots of buildings and energy spots that are harnessing a lot of dark energy and that need to be cleared. These ley lines need to be cleared and kept clear, and that's really hard to do in cities. So there's lots of things that you can do there, you know, to cleanse. It's all about cleansing and clearing, you know. If you take, for example, the Twin Towers and then planes, that plane that flew into the Twin Towers, fires going, what's she on about? You know, that plane ran along a certain ley line, you know, or when these sort of energies are coming repetitively, you know, on ley lines, you know, they need to be cleared and we can cleanse them. One that I'd be quite interested in just now is a castle in Limerick, you know, the energy around the history of that castle in Limerick, and Limerick's a city. There's a lot of dark, dense energy in there. It's a beautiful city, but when you go in there and you really feel, there's a lot of darkness there. So energetically, you can work on clearing that up. You know,
How do you do that?
There's lots of different ways that you can do it, you know. I would say you can do it if you're shamanically inclined. You can do it with your shamanic skills. You can go in there and you can do a diagnostic to clear and lift the energy off the land. And you can plant crystals. You can, a nice one we were doing all last year, for some reason we was guided to pick lots of hawthorn berries. Hawthorn berries, you know, and you're looking at the druids and the power of the trees and the essences of the trees and the healing powers of the trees. You know, you can bring these natural elements into the city, you know, and you can plant them with intent. You can leave them with intent. You can take all your old pennies, your little pennies, you can energize them. You can put prayer into them, and you can scatter them around different places. Perhaps there's a particular set of traffic lights where there is a lot of accidents.
There's one not far from me that a lot of stuff happens at. Yeah.
You know, usually that's a build-up of energy there, and that energy, you can clear that energy, you know. You can go there and you can clear that energy, and then when you clear that energy, then you're just clearing that energy off so that you're removing that energy, you know, you're clearing it up and you're harmonizing that part. Yeah. There was one not so long ago. There was a bad car accident and there was a death, and I thought, oh my goodness, every time I passed it I got a really dark energy, a dark feeling, deep sadness, dark feeling, and I thought I need to go there and do some work to clear that energy. Often there's spirits that don't move on and they collect along ley lines and they collect in certain areas, and kept meaning to do it, and after a week and a half still hadn't done it, and there was another accident in the exact same spot, you know. So you sort of be open to these things, you know. There's a lot of energies that need to be cleared in cities, and there's lots of things you can do. You can just, even if you're just sitting there and bringing your love, your unconditional love, your prayer, your positive intent for healing, you know, you can program crystals, you can energize anything, you know, with love, and you can place it there, and that all has a positive effect. And quite often you can go and just sit and listen and ask that part of the land or whatever it is. You can ask, what can I do to help? Is there anything I can do? And intuitively feelings and thoughts and emotions will come up that you can run with, you know. And when you get these feelings and thoughts, work with them. Because that is the spirit of the land saying to you, hey, you know, perhaps you can do this.
Pay attention, you know? Listen. So, what would you say is specifically significant about Ireland that the ancients built all of these these monolithic sites, you know, that are about 5,000 years old, standing these stones up and, you know, creating these sacred centers? I mean, there are sacred sites all around the world, but none so concentrated as in Ireland. Why do you think that is?
I think because Ireland holds the key and it holds the lock. You know, it's like they say it all started in the East, but it never started in the East. It started in the West. You know, the ancient Druid culture went all around the world and spread teachings, and then teachings influenced other cultures and other spiritual ways around different parts of the world, and a lot of it connects back to Ireland. And I think one of the things that you and your friends are into is the Egyptian connection.
Right. And Atlantean.
And the Atlantean connection.
Yeah.
So I was living in Amsterdam, you know, for 12 years. And then I was pulled back here uh, to be here. And that was ancestors pulling me back, you know. And we are a resonating signature, our heritage. I mean, my mother's line and my father's line are all Irish, generations and generations and generations, although I was born in England and brought up in Scotland and then eventually made my way back here. So from an ancestral point of view, we're very strongly connected with the land. And it's like we have these bodies and we think that we're humans, but actually these bodies are really just skin suits. And inside these, it's a spiritual technology.
Yeah.
You know, we're actually multi-dimensional beings, you know, having sort of multi-dimensional lives in all different aspects of the multiverse, you know. Yeah. It's like we need to expand this out because this is what it is, you know. We're not been getting the full truth of our ancient history. So it's like when you come back to the country that your ancestors are in, you're empowering and you're awakening that energy, you're awakening that part inside your DNA and activating it so that you can enlighten yourself and enlighten others. And for me, coming back to Ireland, let me see how powerful we are as human beings, and that the false system that we have in place, the matrix, you know, and that holds us in domination and control, it's like, it's a load of bullshit. We are beautiful, wonderful, powerful, creative, divine human beings, and we're being duped, you know. So for me, that awareness came in Ireland. I don't think it would have came really anywhere else. It came really strong in Ireland, and that connection, that magical connection, you know, is very much awake. The veils are thin here, and so lots of people come here, and especially down the south of the country, they come here and they feel the supernatural, and the myths and the fairies and everything that is wonderfully magical, you know. People feel it. It becomes real for them. And the stories are amazing. So for me, Ireland has it, you know. I personally feel it's, for me, when I went to all around all the different sacred sites in Meath, you know, like Newgrange. To me, Newgrange was a vault that had lots of different aspects of my soul shards. When I went there, there was a further awakening of empowerment. And when I go to Tara, it's almost as if Tara's like the work office. I go to Tara and I get these insights and feelings and inclinations to go to certain parts of Ireland, not knowing what for, but I just go there. And when I go there, the most amazing adventures are there for me.
Like you're receiving instructions, or like your to-do list, basically.
It's exactly what it's like. It's like the to-do list. I was feeling to go down there last year, and I kept putting it off. And this girl says to me, "Oh, I'm going down to Tara. Will you come down with me?" And I said, "Aye, okay. I'm supposed to be doing a wee trip down there. Got it all organised." And she says, "Oh, I have to cancel." And I thought, "Oh, right. Well, I've booked, so obviously I'm going down." And when I went down, I'm just sort of like tuning in, not much happening, but always seems to be on the way home. And it's definitely to do with the sun coming through the trees. I'm getting all these codes, light codes, coming through the trees as I'm traveling. I can feel it flickering like a barcode coming through the trees, but it's light. It's like, and then it's like after a couple of weeks things kind of settle, and then I'm like, somebody will mention something like last year. The big thing last year was about getting onto Skellig Michael, you know, because we had sand from a 10-day retreat that was done with Tibetan Buddhists with the medicine mandala.
Uh-huh.
So we took sand last year. We took sand from that, which was done in 2016, but we managed to get on the, or to take the sand to Skellig Michael, and I was like, right, okay, that's what I'm doing. And then suddenly somebody says, come down here, come and stay with me. And then it's like, I have friends that can get us a boat there, and
Just easy, like the way just opens.
everything absolutely opened up. It was absolutely incredible. And then the day we had booked to go and getting on Skellig Michael now, because of the Star Wars filming, it's fully booked. You know, it is fully booked. It was like the day we were to go, the day before, we were in this mobile home and we couldn't hear ourselves talk because of the rain. And I was like, I don't think we're going to be going anywhere tomorrow because Skellig Michael is like a boat journey.
Yeah.
And so you have swells and different dangers and things.
Yeah.
And so we drew an oracle card, and the oracle card was expect miracles. Mm. And the two of us looked at one another. It was so wet outside. I says, we'll draw another one. We drew another one, and it says, keep the faith. So I says, well, okay, let's just go and get everything we need as if we're going to get on our journey. And it rained the whole day, really, really heavy. And then we were to phone the guy at 8 o'clock to see if it was happening. And at 7 o'clock, we phoned the skipper of the boat. Is it happening? And he says, oh yeah, it's happening, but the swells will be a bit big, so we're not going to set off at 9 o'clock. We'll set off at 12:30 in the afternoon. And that was just amazing because it meant we didn't have to get up really, really early to travel all the way down.
Yeah.
And we had the most amazing, beautiful, sunny day. And the experience was just totally otherworldly. And we laid the sand, and there was so many people on the island. It was something that we didn't really want to do with a big audience of people.
Yeah.
But that, and everybody went up and done their thing and left. And then when we actually went up to the place where we were leaving the sand, which is at the crossing of the two big ley lines, the St. Michael Ley and the Apollo Athena Ley, there's a section on the island where they cross. When we actually got there, up to that point, there wasn't a soul there. It was just beautiful. And so with reverence, we were able to just place it there. And, it's like everything worked out. Everything was made available for us to do this thing. And we were just amazing. The messengers.
Yeah.
We're just messengers,
Yeah. Yeah. How wonderful. And we have Skellig Michael on the itinerary, kind of as the cherry on top, if you will, at the end of the tour. So we're, June 18th through the 30th. And the house that we'll be staying at is 5 minutes drive. It's on the edge of Kerry on the peninsula. So, whether or not we can make it, we'll definitely be on the Michael line, on the great Michael ley line, and connecting to that energy, which I'm really excited about. I haven't been that far. Yeah.
There's a lovely place on Beira, on the Ring of Beira, as you go down there, and you can see the islands from there. It's absolutely beautiful. And also on the way to Dingle, when you come out of Dingle on your way further towards Bantry, you can see the island. I'm not so sure if it's on the ley though. I think the one down at Beira is actually more on the ley. Wow. But why not give it a go and book?
Yeah.
Book it anyway. Get there really early. It always tells you on the site when they're opening up the site to take bookings, and get up like as if you're going for a concert, and get up at 5:30 and sit there,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So one last question, and then we're going to wrap it up, and I want to just honor you so much, and the fire for participating in this conversation.
Barking away.
So I want to mention Marco Poganik. Is that how you say it?
Yes, yeah.
So I know that he, when I went to Tara in October, he was there with a group, and it was so interesting because we're coming up onto the hill, and I see this group, and I see one of my sisters who's participating in this weekend workshop with them, who's going to be joining us later, and we're all trying to like get her attention, and we're like distracting these other people, but I could feel this like kind of, and he was just talking about things, and I had no idea who this man was, and then afterwards I was educated as to who he was and what he does, and then come to discover that you have a connection with him as well. So please tell me what you know about him and the amazing work that he's doing.
Well, I started to have an opening towards the consciousness of the land, and there was a lot of things happening, and so I was looking for answers, and I was on the internet, which eventually took me to his website, and he was coming to Derry, which is like 15 minutes from where I live in Donegal, and he was coming to do 5 days workshops, because during the times of the Troubles between Derry, he had actually looked at the landscape for healing, to work with. He does lithopuncture, which is like acupuncture for the land, and so he was invited to come to Derry to feel into the land, the spirit of the land, and see if he could find a solution which would actually help along with the situation with the troubles and strife of the political situation.
Yeah.
So he was invited back, and that was all sponsored by Derry City Council. So when I contacted to find out about it, it turned out it was going to be that weekend.
Can I just insert one little thing, is that he works for UNESCO for the purpose of healing the earth.
Yes.
Working as a geomancer.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to set that in there.
So he came to Derry to look over the work that he had done. And the work that he had done at that time was, he realised that the connection between Donegal and Derry, there was a split. And he used his lithopuncture. So he built absolutely beautiful monumental stones, and they're placed like acupuncture needles in certain parts of the land. So that was part of his project at the time of the Troubles in Derry, and now he was revisiting it. And so I spent 5 days with him. I thought, I'm not going to be able to afford this, but it was sponsored. It cost absolutely nothing. And when I went there, he was with an English interpreter, and I just by coincidence was sitting beside her and just chatting, and she says, you need to speak with Marco about these things. So I said to him about the things I was experiencing. He said, yep, he says, well, you're just like me. He says, all these things are, and I thought,
he's Polish?
I don't know if he's Polish. He's from that part of the world. I'd have to run up and get a book and look at it. I'm not sure if he is actually Polish, but I think he's like Bulgaria, round about that type of area. So I started working with him, and he works with cosmograms, and the cosmograms are absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful system that he works with, where you tune into the land and you sit there and you come into a symbol or a sign. One of his ones is where you're rubbing your two hands together like this, and you are putting your energy in space, and at a certain point you open it, and as you open it, you're imagining an opening between the two worlds where you can go in right? So you're basically opening the veil. He has all these different cosmograms. He has another one where you're having a little, you're catching a drop of a tear of the Divine Mother. So you go up and you catch this drop, which is the tear of the Divine Mother, place it on the land, you know. Tuning into his cosmograms are very, very powerful. And it's a wonderful system because you can take a system and you can really run with it, you know, for empowering you and helping you to tune in with the land and also to do healing. I have my own set of cosmograms that I use in different areas, and sometimes I'll be guided if I'm going to a certain place. I'll be guided for a new one, you know, and I'll make a new one with intent, loving intent, and just feeling what comes. So he's a wonderful teacher. He's very, very humble. He's has such wonderful connections with the elementals and the fae and all the different sort of, like, he can go to what's wrong with the land. He can tune into the trees. The trees will tell him stories about things that sort of need to be fixed, and he can go off and do that, you know. So he gave beautiful, there's a stone circle here that's in very bad disrepair, and he went up to see it and he was really, really sad, and he said, it's not my responsibility to come here and fix this and bring it into balance. It's the community, it's down to the community to come together to bring the healing to the land and things. And I thought, my God, this is my community. And then as I actually was moving with him, I fell and I cut my finger. And then there was something about this cutting my finger, because I never actually noticed I cut it till I was dying. There was something about this blood that came out of my finger. And from that, I was guided to go back up to the place where we were. And I got a message of, fix me. And I thought, what's going on here? And then a year later, I was guided to collect quartz from a mountain, a local mountain, and to place that quartz there at certain points where the missing stones were. And so it was through Marco that he gave me the confidence to really work with my intuition and to really go with it. And if it wasn't for Marco, I wouldn't have opened up to the extent that I have opened up. So I feel very blessed to have met him, especially in the manner that I did meet him. You know, like suddenly he was coming to Derry the next weekend and wasn't going to cost me a penny, you know, and, you know, he let me run with things. He asked me what I felt. I was in my own area, and he was asking me what I felt, what cosmograms could I be working with. So he's actually encouraging me, you know. So his wonderful works of art and his little punctures all over the world, you know.
Wow. Yeah. And I was just looking up, so he's from Slovenia.
Yeah.
And if you Google him, as I hope our audience does, these stone monuments are incredible. The carvings in them are powerful and dynamic, and you can see, like, that is doing something. You know,
to me they are real. He calls them cosmograms. To me they really are cosmograms, because a lot of our sacred sites are connected with the stars, you know, and in many cases some of them are even like time portals, you know, where you can I was saying earlier on that we're really skin suits, and inside these skin suits we're coming from all different planets, you know. It's like I have a very strong Palladian connection and a Syrian connection and different things, and when we go to certain standing stones and certain circles, our DNA and our galactic DNA resonates in some of these particular places that we will be naturally drawn to at certain times of the year, and during that time we are picking up on codes codes that are further activating our skills,
Yeah.
for transmitting and receiving, which is what we are anyway. But so we can do it on a much wider and vaster cosmic scale. And the fact that he builds these cosmograms into these stones, he's connecting them with the cosmos. And to me, that's really, really extra special, because not a lot of people get the bit of the connection that these stone circles are very, very ancient, and there's the big mystery about them, but actually a lot of them are really connected with the stars and the elements of the stars, and they open up knowledge for certain types of beings that are in these skin suits. We're humans. Our human body's an amazing technology, so the cosmograms were just wonderful, and if you close your eyes and you trace your hands, like Braille, like you're reading Braille, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's a juicy bit to leave people with. Thank you so much, Geraldine, for
You're very
joining
welcome.
us. And it's such an expansive and insightful conversation. And I hope that people can really take the information to heart, especially to heal the lands on which they live. There's a lot of healing that's needed all over the earth. And, and I love what's really sticking out with me is the copper pennies, using the metals of the earth to heal the earth. I love that. Yeah.
And also the seeds. I love the one about the seeds, collecting the seeds of trees and things.
Yeah.
And just plant them.
Yeah.
Just plant them, just drop them here and drop them there. There's so much you can do when you co-create with your imagination, with love in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
And
well, thank you so much.
I think I'd like to say to anybody that's out there that's living in cities, you've got your work cut out for you guys. But in saying that, like cities, it's like there's a vast concentration of light workers and people that are there that can heal, that are natural healers, and that's really, really beautiful. And the green parks in cities are like so special in many, many ways, So blessings to people that are working in cities, and to everybody else that likes to work geomantically. Enjoy.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Geraldine.
You're welcome.
What do you have there?
This is orgonite. This would be something that a friend of mine in Derry, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. If you're watching. We were doing healing work down in Kerry, down in the Dingle Diamond last year, and Michelle makes orgonite. The really, really lovely thing is she was talking about making the orgonite with bee pollen. I mean, right, start again. Right?
Okay, go ahead.
Right, what is this? Right, see that, what is it?
Okay, what have you got there? You've got one of your tools. What is that?
Oh yeah, well, this would be one of the tools that we would actually make up to place on the earth. It's made of beeswax, and it's orgonite. So into the orgonite there is shungite, which is a very, very good cleanser, an earth cleanser. We have different filings of a mixture of metals, flowers, seeds, crystals, all sorts of different natural things that we took from the land of the particular area that we were working with. This is a friend of mine, Michelle, who is she works with Earth Healing down in Kerry, and I went down to give her a hand with some of her work, and we started to make these in the kitchen. So these are absolutely lovely now. When you take these and you just place these in places where especially in cities. We were talking about the work in cities.
Yeah.
Place them underneath telephone masts. Place them wherever you feel the energy is dense, you know, and they're made with the beeswax, and it becomes then an entity, a living entity in itself. When you're looking at,
why is it black?
it's black because of the shungite. It's shungite powder we put into it.
Okay.
So the shungite's actually crushed, but when it's crushed really finely and you mix it in with the beeswax
So just like the resin that you use to make orgonite, I have a piece of orgonite here, and this, you know, was made with a resin. You're using beeswax, so you're melting the beeswax, and then putting in what you want to put and using a mold.
Yes, we have different coils, like the little triple spirals and things, seeds, metals, flowers, crystals, whatever you feel at the time. And if you're collecting seeds and different flowers and things like that, you know, we tend to take them from the actual area that we're working with, so that you're working then as a co-collective, you know, like, and you're working along with the elementals and the consciousnesses of the different consciousness of nature. You're working with them, you're working together, you know, you're co-creating together. It's not, oh, I'm a human ego, do my own thing. You're tuning in and you're thinking, well, what can we do here? So, yeah, and it smells absolutely amazing. And you're not using plastic resin, which is like really deep, harsh chemicals and things, you know.
Yeah.
So this will be, this is a really, really nice thing to be doing, and very, very natural, and just lovely. That's a lovely little thing to be doing if you're in the city. You know, you don't have to make them in triangles. You can make, or pyramids, you can make them in little small discs, like little butterflies and things.
Yeah, make a grid in the city or something.
Yeah, make a grid in the city, exactly, you know. And your intent is there, you know, it's all working for healing and clearing, you know, clearing the land, clearing the lines, clearing the lays, you know.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have also, some of them have light language written in, you know, and then you fold up the paper and you can put them in. So you've got an absolute mixture of whatever you're feeling creatively to do, you know.
I love it. I love it.